construction of one of the Tonic boxes for you today. This one is called the Venetian Amphora, I think that's what it's called. I haven't got the actual real packaging, so I can't show you the die set, but it makes a gorgeous 12-sided kind of ginger jar looking one. This is a quirky one that I made. I made it look like Winnie the Pooh's pot of honey, with like the honey dripping down on the lid, and then it says honey on the side of it. But that's the basic shape that we're going to make. You can also play around with the die set and just use two of the lids together just to create a small little box. Maybe you've made a bracelet or a brooch or something and you want to give it to someone as a present, or even some little chocolates maybe. And I've used one of the layering dies that fits on top of the lid and cut into it and made a sort of really frilly kind of flower as well. And I also was playing around with, when I saw the actual box made up, I was like, oh, I wonder if you can sort of chop off the bottom of it. And you can make one that looks kind of like this. You could probably even do a double-sided one like this as well. There's quite a lot of panels to cut out for it, but I think it looks really gorgeous when you do cut them all out and take the time to do that. And this is, so the way I did it is I just cut the top part of the die. If I show you the die. Oh, it's stuck. Okay, so this is, you can see where I've been cutting it. I just put two pieces of card on this top section, and then I just made a glue tab out of these extra bits that were here. And then once I'd put the whole 12-sided bit together, I then put glue on all of the little tabs I'd made, stuck it onto another piece of this card, and then literally you just hold it up this way and take your scissors and cut round to create that 12-sided shape for the bottom. It's really easy to do. I'm not showing that in this video, but it is really easy to do. So that's another version that you can do of it. So I'm going to show you the full box that I just showed you in the honey jar version, and this was just one that I'm like part way through making. I got to this stage and I thought, oh well, I want to film a construction video, so I might as well just film it with one of the ones I'm actually making, rather than showing you just with blank card. So for this one I used two of the different types of panels, and I cut into like every other one with the different types, and then I just layered some card on the inside behind them so that the colour shows through the pattern on the outside. And then I also used for all of the rectangular panels, I just used some pattern paper to cut them out, and so it'll sort of alternate pattern paper, this pattern paper, that pattern, all the way around for the 12 sides of it. It has 12 sides, but 6 of them are triangular, so the bottom is actually only hexagonal. And so obviously if it's 12 sides, you need 12 panels, which is 6 sets of the 2 that join to the base. So you need to cut out 3 lots of the main die, like that. I think you will need to use a new piece of A4 card each time you cut this piece out, but from one A4 piece you can get this and the lid. So when I was making the original ones, I did this and the lid off 3 pieces of card, and then I had 2 lids left over, which made me think to make this little one. So that's, you know, out of 3 pieces of card you can get one big box and one little tiny box with the 2 lids as well. And then for the lid I did the same thing. I really like this pattern, it's sort of like a poppy, and then I put some card behind it as well so that it shows through the pattern, and I just added some details with a silver gel pen and the Boulder grey stone drops as well, and then obviously the pattern papers. And then I think to finish decorating it, I've cut a few of the dragonflies out of the pattern paper, so I might stick some of them on as well. But to the construction, so you can see I've put the red tape on everywhere. It's really obvious where it goes with all the little glue tabs. I haven't put it on the top one just because I like doing that bit with wet glue and then pegging it to dry, so I just haven't put the tape on those ones. But we'll start with the lid. So I also like to peg the lid as well. I like using these little wooden craft pegs that you're probably supposed to use on actual projects, but I think they're great for pegging onto things whilst they're drying when you've used a wet glue. So really, really easy to make the lid. You want to, you know when you have the kaleidoscope boxes, you do one tight and one loose. You just want to do these ones tight like that, so they're actually the whole glue tab is covered and you're doing it tight, so it will fit really nicely on the top of the jar. If you're doing this one, you want to do the bottom tight, but the top one you want to leave a teeny little gap on each one. You can see the difference between it there, so it just splays out slightly, so then when you put the two of them together they fit nicely together then. But for this one we're doing, it's the lid of a jar, so we want to do it tightly. So how I do it is I put the red liner tape on everything, and I'm going to take off that red liner tape off all of them. You can do it little section by section if you want to. I just find it's less annoying just to take it all off at once, because, you know, it's a bit time consuming having to stop and then take a few more pieces off. But if it's the first one you've made, you might want to do it like 3 or 4 at a time. So I like to use a mixture of the red liner tape and some wet glue as well, and then that's why I use the pegs, just to make sure it stays. So I'm just going to put a few little dots of wet glue on these as well. I find Cosmic Shimmer or the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive are great for this. And the red liner tape that I was using is the a 3mm one that I got off of Amazon. Just because they've got quite small tabs, I just find the 3mm one easier. So you've got 12 of these to do, and all you need to do is just fold them in together like that. And I'll do a couple of them and then add the little pegs on. You probably don't need the pegs, but I just find I'd rather peg it so it really has dried in place, so it's less likely to pop apart, like, because I have to post these off. I don't want them to be in pieces by the time they get to Tonic. So, but you literally just go around the whole thing, just lining them up just like that, and then pegging them. It's really quick to do. And obviously if you're adding any drops to your boxes, for the lid it's not such a big deal. Like I could have made this lid and then put the drops on it, but because I was putting a few drops on the side of the boxes, I just did it all at once and then left it to dry. Because obviously if you put a wet Nuvo drop on the side of a box, once it was assembled, then it would start to sort of drip down the box as well and not stay as a little Nuvo drop. So that is our lid all done. So it's going to look like that from the top, and then I might add a dragonfly or two just to bring in those colours from these panels of the side of the box as well. But I'll see what it looks like when it's all together. Then for the main box, the first time I made this, I didn't stick the bottoms together as I was building it, and then you can't easily lift them up to stick adhesive underneath them, so I'm going to recommend sticking these together first and then assembling the rest of it. So I think I'm just going to add, so yeah, so for this pink one I only actually squirted a little bit of glue underneath the bottom one. The other ones aren't actually stuck together. But for this one I'm going to recommend, I'm just going to put like a bit of red liner tape, and then I'll use some wet glue as well. I suppose it just makes the base nice and strong, but I mean it's going to have a nice strong base anyway because it's got 3 layers of cardstock on it. So just a little bit of glue, because it doesn't actually need glue between them all. I just think this is probably going to be easier from my experience of making the first one and not sticking them together. And you can also, once you've stuck these 3 together, you can really see the net of the box as well, so you can sort of really figure out how it's going to go together and everything. My nozzle keeps getting blocked on this. Okay, that should do. And then we stick the last one on for the last 2 sides of the box as well. Okay, so that's a really nice strong bottom to the box now, and you can see, if I zoom out a little bit, not show all my mess, you can see how that box goes together now. All you have to do is fold in all the sides and it will bring it up together to be that gorgeous jar shape. So the way I do it, I don't tend to use glue on all the bottom ones just because you're getting a bit of a mess. So the way I'm going to do it is take off the red liner tape for the main bottom pieces first. So these big glue tabs that are on here. I'm hoping I'm explaining this all right. It's good just to see someone put a box together and then you kind of figure it out for yourself. But for these ones, we didn't really have any instructions of how to do it, so I'm not sure of the exact way you're supposed to do it. I'm sure you'll see Jodie making them on Creating Craft, and she'll probably tell you some better hints and tips, but this is just how I put it together and the way I found it worked. So I'm gonna stick that one on. So you're literally just going round, lining up the edge of that rectangular panel to the edge of the triangular panel and building the base of the jar. I really like this one, it's a really cool shape. And yeah, so to make the whole base of the box, you're probably going to need 3 sheets of card, but then you'll have some leftovers as well. But because of the way these base pieces are, I'm pretty sure when I was cutting it you could only get one from one piece of A4 just because of the awkward shape of them. But if you're making that one that I showed you without all of this bottom piece and you'll just have the top of the jar, you can actually get all of that out of one piece. I think I got it all out of one piece. Yeah, I got all of the side pieces out of one piece and then I started another piece for the lid for that one. But yeah, so that is the base of the jar. That's how it's starting to come together with the 6 sides at the bottom, but now we've got 12 sides at the top. So the way I was putting this part together is I then went round and took the red liner tape off the next section on each of these. And I think I was doing maybe 4 at a time just so I didn't get in a mess because there's 12 sides up the top now. So we just want to bring them together. Again, you want a tight seal on these, so you want to just butt the side of that panel right up to the score line of the previous one. And that one, and then we'll take off the liner tape of 4 more. I think that was 4. Okay, and then same thing. Okay, the last 4 of these. It's a bit repetitive because there's so many sides to it, but hopefully seeing it a few times you'll you'll sort of know off by heart how it goes together. But you're just butting the edge of that one up against the score line. They're really simple to put together. All Tonic dimensional dies, the people who design them are so clever at giving you such easy constructions, which is really cool. So that is the next bit now. To get the shape of the top of the jar, and you'll see this when you're starting to put it together, this bit needs to fold inwards, but then the next bit kind of folds outwards. It's kind of odd to explain. Well, no, that folds, okay, no, ignore me. That folds inwards too, but they've put a score line here because it's just like a teeny weeny little bit of a different angle. But you'll figure it out when you're putting it together. It's the top one that folds outwards that I was getting confused with. So for the next bit I'm going to maybe do 3 at a time, but I'm going to take the tape off of both of the little pieces here because I just find it's much easier to do it this way. If you take it off just one of, like the lower down one, it's quite difficult to get in and take the red liner tape off the next one up. So I just find it's easier to do it this way. So we've got those 3 undone. So we want to fold that one along there, and then you're literally just moulding it and making sure that this side of this one goes up with the score line of the previous one. And as you start sticking it together, you'll see that you're making that shape, and it all just goes together perfectly. So you just stick that one down, and then this one you'll just naturally see how it's going to fold in. And these top ones, you'll notice if you then try to do it like that, they're crossing over. So this one actually, when we stick it together, it pops out a little bit to give a nice mount for the lid to sit on. So I'll just go around the rest of the pot doing these 2 tabs. I hate the red liner tape, it just gets so staticky everywhere. I do find using a pair of scissors, like the blade of scissors, really helpful to get the red liner tape off of all of these tabs. Okay, so just don't worry if you think it's not supposed to be going the way it is. Like you can see how it's built that shape round, but this still looks like maybe it's not going to quite fit. But if you keep butting up the edge to the score line, it does all come together in the end. As long as you just follow that, sticking the edge of the previous panel to the score line of the other one, it will all come together perfectly. And you're going to have these little red pieces everywhere for a while because they're so staticky. So just follow that again. But these seriously are so easy to put together. Like, I mean, I had seen these in real life before I got the die set to make them from, so I did kind of know what I was working towards, but I saw them in January, so it was quite a while away, you know, to sort of remember what they actually look like. Although, if you had, I think it was issue 8 of the Tonic magazine, I think Ali had done a sneak peek of this box die set as well in that. So okay, finish off the last few. Okay, a little bit off, there we go. So now we have this where all of these are sort of going inwards now, the ones we haven't glued, and then you're sort of like, oh, well, how is the lid going to fit on that? But we now need to sort of prise these little tabs open, and then we're going to add some wet glue onto the little tab, and then we're going to stick them, again, the side of this one to the score line of that, and it's going to make it stand upwards compared to the rest of the jar. And then that's how the lid is going to sit on really nicely. So I'm just going to add some glue to a few of them. It's a little bit fiddly, this part, but if you have the little pegs, I think that makes it so much easier. Okay, so I'm just going to do a few at a time, and then literally bring that side up with the score line, pinch it nice and tightly, and then add a peg on it. And then next one, same thing. And the good thing about the wet glue, if you have like put it together slightly off, you've got a minute to sort of fiddle around with it and make it the right angles and everything. Okay, then I think you can probably see how that's this angle, now this is going straight up again, so it's really easy to do. And again, just work a few at a time so you don't get in a mess with the glue. Just want a little bit of glue on each of the tabs. Might as well finish the rest of them off while I'm here. You can do less at a time if you'd rather, but I mean, I have put a few of these together now, so you kind of get more used to it the more you put together. And there we have the finished box put together. So I'm going to leave that to dry for a couple of minutes, and then I'll come back and show you how the lid goes onto it as well. Okay, so I reckon that's been drying for long enough, so I'm just going to take off all of the pegs. I get these little craft pegs in the works, but I think you can get them in quite a few different places. Poundland probably have them. Okay, so voila, all you do is just put the lid on top of the box. Really simple, and you get this gorgeous shaped sort of jar then. And you can mix up the decoration, you know, however you want to. You get intricate panels for these sides of the box as well, so you could do this all the way around. You could have just pattern paper all the way around. You can cut the panels out and stick another colour behind them and then stick them onto the box. You can cut the panel out, put some adhesive behind it, and then put glitter on them as well. So there's loads of different ways of using them, and obviously you can decorate as much as you want with all your Nuvo products as well. Another thing I like to do is cut the panels out and stick them on so it's the same colour on the same colour, then add Nuvo mousses and expanding mousses and stuff, and it kind of looks like an engraved jar then. That's another nice way of doing them. But yeah, I think I'm going to add a couple of dragonflies on the top of this one, just to tie in the dragonflies from the side of the jar as well. And then I think that one will be finished. But I just wanted to show you the construction of one of these whilst I had all the pieces cut, because it's nice to know, put one together for a reason rather than me just putting together a blank one. It's nicer for you to see one that's already been decorated and everything. So I hope this was helpful, and there'll probably be an up close video that has this part of the video at the end of it as another video as well, but this one should just be the construction video. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!